That night changed everything in ways I never imagined, beginning with what felt like an ordinary favor when Marie, the woman who shared the house with me as a longtime family friend and temporary housemate, asked me to stay back while my father left for his routine. Fishing trip, something that had become normal over the years. And at the time, it didn't seem unusual because Marie and I had lived under the same roof for months, sharing space, conversations, and an unspoken familiarity that had slowly grown into something harder to define. Yet that morning, the house felt strangely hollow once my father's presence disappeared, the silence stretching longer than usual. Pressing against my thoughts, and after finishing my work and trying to distract myself, Marie called me into the living room with a softness in her voice that carried a nervous edge I hadn't noticed before, asking if I could help her with something. And when I sat beside her, the air felt different, heavier, charged with something unnamed. And as she spoke about how much time had passed and how people change without realizing it, her words lingered too long, her gaze holding mine in a way that made my heart beat faster, stirring confusion. Because our relationship had always been polite, familiar, safe. Yet suddenly it felt like we were standing somewhere unfamiliar. And when she mentioned that my father would be gone all weekend, the implications sat between us, unspoken, but loud, making me uneasy, because I sensed that she was circling a truth she hadn't yet said aloud. And when she finally admitted she'd been thinking about us, about the shift she felt between us over the months, I tried to deny it, to insist it was imagined, but deep down I knew there had been moments. Fleeting glances, conversations that lasted a second too long, silences that spoke more than words. And I told myself it meant nothing until that day, until the quiet made it impossible to ignore. And when she stepped closer, not touching yet close enough that I could feel her presence, I felt torn between reason and impulse, reminding myself this was wrong, complicated something that could unravel lives. But the more I tried to pull away, the stronger the pull became. Not driven by recklessness, but by something slower and more dangerous: emotional proximity, familiarity, loneliness, shared in the same space. So when I tried to create distance over the next few days, staying in my room, avoiding being alone with her, it only made the tension sharper, like stretching a wire until it hums. And the night everything truly shifted came quietly, with the house dim and still, the television murmuring in the background as Marie sat on the couch with a glass in her hand, lost in thought. And when she asked if I couldn't sleep, the question felt like an opening rather than small talk. And as we sat together in silence, every unspoken thought pressed closer until she finally said she couldn't pretend anymore. That whatever this was had grown too big to ignore. And I tried again to argue, to claim boundaries and logic, but my voice lacked strength because the truth was I felt it too. The same pull that had followed me for weeks. And when she placed her hand over mine, it was on. The touch itself that overwhelmed me, but what it represented, the admission of something real, and in that moment restraint crumbled, not because of desire alone, but because of exhaustion from resisting. And when we leaned toward each other, the kiss that followed was brief, hesitant, more a question than an answer. Yet it changed the shape of everything, because once crossed, the line could never be unseen. And afterward we sat in stunned silence, aware that nothing would return to how it was. And the days that followed were filled with distance and avoidance, layered over constant awareness. Every shared room charged, every accidental glance heavy with memory. And though we told ourselves it was over, it had been a mistake. The unspoken connection remained, surfacing in quiet moments, in conversations that circled the truth without naming it. Until one afternoon, when the weight of pretending became unbearable and Marie admitted she couldn't stop thinking about that moment. And when I finally confessed the same, it felt less like surrender and more like honesty, frightening in its clarity. Because acknowledging it meant accepting the consequences that might follow. And when we said we had to stop, we both knew the words were fragile, easily broken. And the closeness that followed was not reckless but heavy with awareness. Each moment steeped in conflict rather than fantasy. And as weeks passed, we lived in parallel realities, one outwardly normal, the other filled with quiet, tensity. Till the night my father unexpectedly returned early. The sound of the door opening slicing through my thoughts like a blade, panic surging as guilt rose to the surface, and though nothing was spoken outright. The tension at dinner was suffocating, every question loaded, every pause dangerous. And when he finally remarked on how much time Marie and I seemed to be spending together, the room seemed to hold its breath. And in that moment, I understood that secrets do not need confession to be felt, that truth has weight even when unspoken. And as I sat there unable to form a convincing denial, I realized that whatever had begun in silence would not remain hidden forever. Because some changes cannot be undone, they only move forward, reshaping everyone caught in their path.